All right, tonight, guys, we have another really cool watch sent in by my good friend Homer. This is his Seals Watch Company Model C. Now, I don't know much about this brand. I looked up their website real quick, so I have some of the information obviously from there. As far as like the automatic movement they're using is the STP 1-11. But mostly I'm just going to go off the aesthetics of what I'm looking at here and what we're seeing on video, and in the overall feel and hand is this is like a super solid, really cool, unique looking watch. The build on this thing is it gives you the sense of it being very robust and also protected, like that crystal being almost completely flat along that top side there. You can tell it's going to be protected from most angles. And then the legibility is super simple. This is like a heavy duty field watch that is different than the norm, I guess is what we're looking at. But I like how there's the dial is simple, but yet it has some interesting features there, like that railroad track going on the outside there, that's actually raised up from the dial. The dial actually has like a nice little texture to it, you can see there. And of course you have, your 1 through 12, but, your 12 is a triangle, and then your 3, 6, 9 are just bars, and then you have some numbers, but then you also have clearly written in white, you have your 24-hour on the inner scope there, and then their logo, just a very simple basic S. So they're not cluttering it up with anything, but it is still not just super basic, I guess the only thing I could compare it to is, how Hamilton puts a ton of information on there. It's still simple, but there's no style or anything to it. Like this it's simple, but yet there's style behind it, if that makes sense. Even the crown is done differently, where it's has that octagon shape to it, and then their S. It is a screw-down crown. This is a 200-meter watch, but none of that's even written on there. It's super simple in design. I think it's really slick. Plus, with these wire lugs, these are 22 mil wide. Well, when I measure things, you measure in between here and here where the spring bar is. That's like 20 millimeter, but you're not going to put a 20 millimeter strap on here. You have to put a 22 on there. Otherwise, you're really, really putting everything on the spring bar. If you put a 22, then it kind of extends out past onto those wire lugs. So it is definitely a 22 mil. So you do have some information on the case back here. You can see Model S, the CXS 0328, whatever that means. That might be like the production number of this particular model or something. Field Explorer, 20 Atmos, so it's a 200-meter watch. And then I think, you could do some, I don't know, you're pretty much, this thing's going to live on some sort of NATO, whether it be a single pass or maybe Erica's original or even like a watch steward strap or something like that. All of that would work great. I really think because this watch is so thin, like this seatbelt style strap. This is from Strap Mill, Canada. You can see there. I think it would live on something like this if it were mine, or single pass Havastan or something like that. So you can see really good heavy brushing, and then you have the polished relief going all the way around. I forgot to point out actually on the case too, it even has shape behind the lugs. So like you can see the case is actually even shaped there. It's not just flat across. So it's a little unique all over. The whole thing is just pretty wild. Let's see. I'll get a wrist shot here for you. You guys know I'm not super great with NATOs, but I tried it on a couple different ones. I think this black one really just works, I think, the best, in my opinion. Just because, it is a field watch and it just looks kind of stealthy-ish. All right, I'm going to get that little flap. I don't know how you guys deal with that flap. I think NATOs always look cool and they're super comfortable, but dealing with that little flap, I know there's different ways to wear these, but I'm just trying to give you guys a representation of what it would look like on a 7.25 inch wrist. You can see it wears great. I didn't really talk about the size of the case, but and it's kind of weird to measure it because it has such a like a belly along the side there, and then I try to catch it without the crown too. So they claim 40.5. The best I can tell, it's closer to actually like 41, and then the lug to lug is like a 48, and it's only 11.5 thick. And then we already talked about that 22 mil lug width. So sizing is really good. So I think it's going to work for a lot of people on a lot of different wrists. Their website says, I think, $640. There is one, and I think there's a darker blue dial. It almost looks black to me, but there's a darker blue dial one on eBay right now. Who knows? Somebody might go buy it right away, but it was on there before I did this video anyway. I'm not going to do a link to it or anything like that, but there's one on eBay for like $440. So I think price range, new obviously is going to be the 640 unless there's some sort of discount codes that I'm not aware of. So I think it's a really good price. I think anywhere from like 640 down to like that 440 on eBay, anywhere in there, I think you're getting a really cool, robust, different kind of watch that stands alone and is, for a lot of people, I think it's just going to fit the bill because you maybe want something different than the norm. You see so many field watches that are just Hamiltons or whatever, and I'm not picking on Hamilton. I think those are great watches. I think this is just cool. It's different. So great watch. I guess the only thing and this is you know what else I noticed when I was messing around with the crown earlier? See how the crown comes out in the tube? It's I've never seen a watch done this way, other than like Vostok, but then they use like that clutch system and stuff. So it's just done a little bit different. I don't know if I'm not sure how they seal it up. You can feel it even when you move it. You can almost feel like the gasket in there or something, but I don't know. You guys understand what I'm saying here? See how the crown goes around that stem tube is like protruding out. Like I don't see any other watches do it like that. So that part is done a little bit different. So I'm not sure what they did exactly, but it's pretty slick nonetheless. So, but that's geeking out a little bit, I suppose. But it's pretty cool, and I think it shows like a different way of doing something, or at least it seems different, and it seems very solid and robust. But what I was going to say before I went off, took a right turn there, but they're, using this movement, and a lot of companies will do this, instead of going with, I don't know if they have a date option, but what I'm getting at is there's a ghost date on this. So like that first pop you do, that would be like a date wheel, and there's nothing there. So I guess if I'm nitpicking, that kind of gets old with me. Like it almost feels lazy, and I know, because I know the prices of movements to go from a date to a no date, especially if you're not going to have a date model in your lineup. Just get the no date movement. So if I'm nitpicking, I guess that would be my one gripe. And it's totally, it doesn't matter. Go past that point and just set the time and move on. Don't sit there and hunt and try to set the time and move a ghost date wheel. That's just kind of silly. But like I said, that's just nitpicking. So anyway, guys, big thanks to Homer for sending this in. They do say they use Superluminova, but it didn't say if it's C1 or C3. And sometimes it's hard for me to tell, honestly. But so, and of course, it's going to look, let me see if I can get some light here. I mean, it's going to look kind of bright on camera, and it's holding up pretty good. So it's got to be C3. It's definitely brighter on the hands than it is the dial. But I mean, that's kind of to be expected in some cases when they're printed on like that. So overall, the loom looks pretty good. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching, and thank you, Homer.